F-Zero is a long-standing franchise that has been since dormant all the way back from the Nintendo GameCube. Well, thankfully for the Switch 2, an exclusive game called Fast Fusion is a spiritual successor of F-Zero. So right off the bat, when you fire up Fast Fusion, one of the first things you are going to notice is the game's visuals. This game looks absolutely gorgeous. It is probably the best looking Switch game overall to start on the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, probably with the only real competitor being Cyberpunk. But this game looks absolutely fantastic and it runs absolutely fantastic as both in handheld and docked mode. This game, at least from the naked eye for me, runs at 60 FPS at all times. And that's great given the visual fidelity that this game has on display. Also, to go along with the visuals is the audio. The audio is also really, really good because of the soundtrack. Again, this is very much like F-Zero slash Wipeout. So there is a fantastic soundtrack that accompanies the game's visuals and all enhances the presentation of the game. So when you're zipping through the courses, everything just looks good and sounds good. It's absolutely fantastic across the board, right? But what about gameplay? Gameplay is basically, as stated, F-Zero. You race around the tracks. You have two choices, red or blue, and you have to match the corresponding color to go over the zip lines. If you are using the wrong color, you actually get slowed down instead of sped up. And essentially, while you're racing, you are avoiding environmental hazards as well as collecting coins to fill up your boost gauge to fire up your boosts. If you're going faster than an enemy racer, you can knock them and spin and kind of take them for a 360 spin, allowing you for an easy overtake. To accompany all of this is also a jump feature. The jump feature is really, really what helps define this game and give it a little bit of its own identity, as you can find all sorts of shortcuts and things that will make you fly across the map and give you a sense of speed and scale. Furthermore, it's just really cool because when you accompany this with the game's visuals, it's really awe when you're up in the air so high, traveling so fast, and then you come back down. It's really, really adds to it, and it really, really helps with the course design. And that's something that I will give a lot of credit to Fast Fusion. The course design. The courses themselves are all unique, they're all different, they look fantastic, but they all have their own like hazards and things that make them all feel different and unique, which is great for the experience all the way across the board. But because this is a racing game, when you're not in the race itself, you have your choice of cars. There's 15, I guess you could say, flying cars or whatever they're called. There's 15 of them to choose from. But the key cog here, and as the name implies, fusion, is that you can take two cars, fuse them together, and to create another car that has improved statistics. So if you want to get max acceleration, max speed, max boost, you're going to have to fuse two cars together in order to achieve this. And all of this costs credits. Credits are earned through playing through the championships, and you use these credits to not only buy the cars, you use them to as the spending fee to fuse the cars. The only thing I will complain with regards to the credits is that you also need to use them to unlock the next level of the championship game mode. I feel like this is just unnecessary in my opinion, because what this does is that it makes the player balance their expenditure of credits. But more importantly, at times you may have to grind the other modes, be it the superhero mode, which is basically a survival mode, or the time attack mode, simply to earn credits so that you can either buy a car or so that you can unlock the next championship level. So I don't like the fact that in order to progress through the championships, you have to spend the same credit currency that you use to buy and fuse cars together. That is one of the negatives that I had with the game, is just with the credits themselves. The other negative, since we are on the topic of negatives, is the overall lack of content with regards to Fast Fusion. The game only has 12 tracks and 15 cars. That is not a lot. Within a couple of hours, you would have seen every course and pretty much have been able to unlock any car that you've wanted at that point. It is at that point, once you complete one difficulty level of the championship, you move on to the next difficulty level and the one after that. Think Mario Kart, but if Mario Kart forced you to do 50cc, 100cc, then 150, instead of just allowing you to go to 150. You can't do that in this game. You actually have to go in order. So the content does get repetitive and there's just not much of it. What's here is top quality, but it's just very, very limited in terms of quantity. The last thing that I will mention with regards to Fast Fusion, that despite the lack of content that the game has, the game is a very appropriately priced. In terms of Canadian dollars with taxes, I pay $25 for Fast Fusion. And I can safely say that I would rather spend that $25 again for Fast Fusion than buy that Nintendo Switch tech demo of a game welcome tour. That's like $15. I would rather buy this again because at least for your money, Fast Fusion delivers. It delivers great visuals, great audio, and a great core gameplay experience that is fun and reminiscent of that of F-Zero. The only difference is that it lacks a little bit of content. But when you're talking about 25 Canadian dollars with tax, which means it's like 15 US, it's great value for your money, and I don't regret spending a penny on it. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Fast Fusion. I do recommend it for all Switch owners. It's definitely a game that you should pick up, especially at the price point that it's set at. Overall, I'm giving Fast Fusion an 8 out of 10. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.